Caitlin Clark does return to the floor. How is she going to help elevate this team even more down the stretch of the season?
Well, she demands so much gravity on the defensive end of the floor. She's constantly seeing multiple players, and she makes the right reads and makes the right plays for our group. So she's going to continue.
In the middle of a tense WNBA season, the spotlight has returned once again to Caitlin Clark, a player whose mere presence on the floor changes everything. The story begins with Stephanie White, head coach of the Indiana Fever, delivering carefully measured words in her latest ESPN interview. She spoke of Clark's return with optimism, but also a cautionary undertone that sent tremors across Fever Nation. White praised Clark for the gravity she demands on the defensive end, her ability to stretch the floor, and the defensive versatility she brings with her size and length.
To allow us to stretch the floor, we're going to be able to, I think everybody else will be able to get more higher percentage looks because of what she demands on the defensive end of the floor. And she brings our own defensive versatility because of her length, because of her size. So we'll certainly look different, I think.
On paper, the comments sounded like praise. In reality, they carried an unsettling implication. Clark might not return to the exact same role she held before her injury. For Fever fans, that was the first alarm bell. Because Caitlin Clark isn't just a talented guard. She isn't just another piece of a rotation. She is the system, the engine, the force of nature who makes teammates better by simply being on the court. White's words suggested that Clark might be used differently, perhaps shifted off the ball, perhaps asked to blend into a structure that doesn't maximize her unique brilliance. And that idea has triggered outrage. What makes this story so dramatic is the collision between a generational talent and a coach who seems determined to mold her into something less. Stephanie White's coaching philosophy, influenced heavily by her Connecticut Sun background.
Stephanie White, do not put Ari and Kelsey and Caitlin on the floor at the same time. Please don't do it. Please don't do it, man. Please. All right? That lineup made no...
Emphasizes slow, grinded-out basketball. It's a style built on defense, physicality, and deliberate possessions. It worked to a degree in Connecticut, but it also produced one of the lowest-scoring teams in the league. Now, transplanted to Indiana, White is attempting to impose the same blueprint on a roster headlined by the most electrifying offensive player women's basketball has seen in decades. Caitlin Clark didn't just break records at Iowa, she redefined the sport. She pulled in viewers who had never watched a women's game before. She stretched defenses to half court, created scoring opportunities from impossible situations, and elevated teammates simply by demanding constant double and triple teams. To attempt to wedge her into a rigid system is not just questionable strategy, it borders on malpractice.
White praising Caitlin Clark. Did hell freeze over somewhere I don't know about? I don't know. We'll see. But she actually made some very nice comments, I guess.
Fans immediately picked up on the contradictions in White's words. On one hand, she praised Clark's gravity and impact. On the other, she talked about needing to play her off the ball more, about limiting the strain of her handling responsibilities, about using her as one piece among many rather than the centerpiece. To Fever Nation, this was déjà vu. They had seen White's rotations before, her insistence on lineups that made little sense, her refusal to maximize her star. And now, even as Clark recovered from injury, the plan appeared to be more of the same. The frustration grew louder when White began speaking of reintegrating Clark carefully, of avoiding setbacks, of taking it one day at a time. Fans heard caution, but they also heard excuses. They wanted answers, clarity, a timeline. Instead, they got more of the same corporate-sounding phrases about patience. And then came the kicker. White directly stated she wanted Clark to play more off the ball. This is where the debate boiled over.
She went on ESPN and didn't use the phrase blessing in disguise. I mean this when I say this. I've said this about Stephanie White plenty times. I actually think Stephanie White's a hell of a coach. So many people are like, oh, you've done nothing.
Clark's identity as a player has always been rooted in her ability to control the offense. She isn't just a shooter standing in the corner waiting for a pass. She is the passer, the initiator, the creator. Her style of play thrives on rhythm, flow, and freedom. She is Magic Johnson with Steph Curry's range, a once-in-a-generation combination of vision and shooting. Asking her to give up that role isn't just a minor tweak. It's stripping her of the very thing that makes her unique. The numbers prove how damaging this shift has already been. Clark has missed more games this season due to soft tissue injuries than she missed in her entire college career. Her shooting percentages have plummeted, her confidence looks shaken, and the team's offense without her running the show has been disjointed. At Iowa, she was trusted to play 35-plus minutes, to take over games, to carry the load. And she thrived. In Indiana, White's so-called careful management has only led to more injuries and worse performance. Clark herself admitted she isn't a fan of minutes restrictions. She said earlier this season she didn't want to come back unless she was 100%, and she questioned the point of playing limited minutes. Yet White continues to treat her as if she's fragile glass, forcing her into unfamiliar roles, cutting her rhythm, and ultimately exposing her to more physical punishment. The irony is brutal. By trying to protect Clark, White has exposed her to greater risk.
I'm gonna criticize Stephanie White. I think she's got flaws. I think her rotations are iffy. I think her game plans are good. I think her defense is good. And I think her ability to get a team together is pretty good. I think she likes to play a bit slow, but she is very good. What Stephanie White is really good at is making players.
And then there's the issue of physicality. Clark has become the most targeted player in the WNBA. 17% of all flagrant fouls this season have been committed against her. 80% of those came from the Chicago Sky alone. As the debate around Caitlin Clark's role continues, the tension inside the Indiana Fever organization has reached a boiling point. Fans aren't just upset, they feel betrayed. They tuned in this season expecting to see the same electrifying Clark who transformed Iowa into a must-watch phenomenon. Instead, they've seen her sidelined by injuries, restricted by minutes, and forced into a role that strips away her superpowers. The frustration is palpable, and it has spilled out across social media, talk shows, and even into the commentary from former players. Legendary voices have questioned why a coach would handcuff the league's brightest star, why a franchise would willingly dim the spotlight that Caitlin Clark naturally commands. The reality is harsh. Under Stephanie White, the Fever are wasting a once-in-a-generation talent.
For us, moving her off the ball a little bit more so she's not getting worn out in game, just handling the ball 94 feet. And then we're challenging her on the defensive end of the floor as well, like being a better defender. The best that for us as an opponent, you want to attack.
And the damage isn't just statistical, it's psychological. Clark's confidence, her swagger, the fearless edge that made her such a phenomenon at Iowa, looks dulled. She thrived when she was trusted to run the show, to take over games, to control tempo. Now she looks like a player trying to squeeze into someone else's box, playing hesitant, second-guessing herself. This isn't just a slump. It's a direct result of a coaching philosophy that doesn't align with her strengths. To fully grasp how wrong this approach is, consider the broader history of basketball. Every great coach who's ever had a transcendent talent understood the same truth. You adapt to the star, not the other way around. Phil Jackson built the triangle around Jordan and Kobe. Steve Kerr unleashed Steph Curry's off-ball magic, but never took away his freedom to launch audacious threes. Even Greg Popovich, one of the most system-oriented coaches in history, bent his schemes to maximize Tim Duncan and later Kawhi Leonard. The greatest coaches understand flexibility. Stephanie White, by contrast, seems rigid. She's trying to run Indiana the way she ran Connecticut, as if Clark is just another player in the machine, and it's costing them dearly. Consider the numbers. With Clark on the floor in her natural role last season, the Fever were competitive against nearly every team. They looked like a young squad with a future.
Caitlin, at the end of the day, no matter how many games they win, they lost more games without Caitlin Clark playing. So everybody argument that Caitlin Clark is the Achilles heel, Caitlin Clark is this and that, your argument is obsolete.
With Clark sidelined or limited this season, the losses piled up quickly. 7 defeats without her proved the point more clearly than any analyst could. Clark isn't just part of the solution, she is the solution. And yet, White continues to talk about reintegrating her slowly, about patience, about moving her off the ball to ease her workload. It's the wrong diagnosis to the wrong problem. The injuries aren't coming from overuse, they're coming from misuse. A Ferrari isn't meant to idle in traffic, it's meant to run at high speeds. The same goes for Caitlin Clark. Restricting her, pulling her in and out of rhythm, forcing her into unnatural roles. Those are the real culprits behind the injuries. And fans know it. They see through the spin. That's why Fever Nation has erupted in anger, calling for White's replacement, demanding that the front office step in before it's too late. Because every day wasted on this flawed experiment is another day lost in Clark's short window of prime dominance. But it's not just about X's and O's, it's about spirit. Clark has always been a competitor who thrived on pressure. At Iowa, she was booed on the road, targeted by physical defenders, doubted at every turn, and she responded with iconic performances, burying logo threes, breaking records, and dragging her team to national championship games. That player hasn't disappeared.
Forever have that notion on there, that blemish on there. Now, if they would have won more games, lost less, then you might have had something. But by them losing 7 damn games without Caitlin Clark playing lets us know that,
But the environment around her in Indiana is suffocating her. Instead of being empowered, she's being controlled. Instead of being unleashed, she's being restricted. And the contrast is heartbreaking. What makes this even more infuriating is that Clark has proven she can handle the weight. She's shown she doesn't need to be babied with minutes restrictions. She doesn't need to be hidden off the ball. She needs trust. She needs the ball in her hands, the freedom to play through mistakes, the license to control tempo. That's how generational players thrive. And when they thrive, the entire team benefits. Look at her assist numbers. Look at how many teammates get easy looks when she's orchestrating. Look at how defenses panic when she crosses half court. Those are the advantages that disappear when White insists on treating her like a role player. And let's not ignore the elephant in the room. The WNBA itself benefits when Clark shines. Ratings have soared because of her. Attendance records have been shattered. Merchandise has flown off the shelves. She isn't just Indiana's star, she's the league star. And the league can't afford for its brightest light to be dimmed by poor coaching decisions. The frustration has grown so loud that even national analysts are questioning White's job security. How long can a franchise afford to waste this opportunity?
The entire league. Remember, she literally added like nearly 3 points a game to her average. She was setting records for assists. Now, that's with Christie's